Good morning, folks. I decided I wanted a 632 for my airboat. So I did a little research and I found these folks up here in North Carolina, and I shot them an email and told them I'm not a time waster or a tire kicker. This is what I want. I run strictly saltwater, inshore, with this old airboat. I don't care about horsepower. I care about torque from about 2,500 to about 5,000 RPM. Right now with this boat, with the prop is set, will turn flat on the floor, hard out, 5,100 RPM, which just how you set your prop with your gear reduction. That's a 5-blade EX prop that's on there. Anyway, I sent these folks an email, told them what I was going to do, what I wanted to do, and what I needed, and asked for a quote. Well, they sent me a quote. And I said, well, okay, they're fairly close to me, so if I had a problem, I'd have a recourse, maybe. So I sent them a check and included an extra $500 for freight, because they said the quote was plus freight. Well, the old boy got the check up there, and I guess cashed the check, and he called me, he said, I sell 200 motors a year. I never had nobody just send me a check. I said, well, I told you in the email, I'm not a tire kicker or a time waster. I'm 73 years old. Had old diesel shop better than 40 years pulling on them wrenches. We run heavy diesel, had a land clearing company, sold all the excavators, dozers, everything. And all I do is want to fish. Fix me up. He said, not a problem. So I get the motor, we open the crate up, and the crate is real nice. And open it up, and first thing I see is silicone hanging off the front of the block, that Merlin block, where the dyno water pump was. I'm like, huh. Like I said, I had a diesel shop. I never sent that kind of work out. And I was like, oh, dang. So we got checking it over and everything, and half the valve cover bolts was loose, and some of the pan bolts was loose. And this isn't just, my flywheel's still in the box, and the starter's still in the box, everything. I'm like, huh, okay. I pulled the plug, make sure it'd been run, and it had been run. So, and it dynoed 6,100 RPM. It dynoed a little better at 830 horse. And I don't care about the horsepower. All I care about is the torque. And it's 790 pounds of torque there where it crosses with the horsepower at 5250. And I was like, huh. So we get it running, and the whole thing just, I mean, if you're sitting at a stoplight, the whole thing sounds good, you know. But I didn't know what was going on with it. It's got a distributor in it that I didn't know when it got here, and I called up there and talked to some of the hands up there. The boss man was gone, and this distributor had no tag on it, no part number, nothing. Just had well, I'll show it to you. It just had wires hanging out, and right there you can see that distributor. See I'm gonna get over here like that. See that distributor? That's 5 hours on this Chinese knockoff MSD, and all I had was this little plug hanging out right here. I didn't know what in the world. Well, I look at the invoice and it says MSD, blah, blah, blah. $300 or $290, something like that. So I called MSD and I said, what am I supposed to, well, I called up there first and I said, hey, what am I, they said, well, I don't know. We get these parts of they're knockoff parts that get them out of Tennessee or a warehouse. I'm like, oh, okay. So I got a hold of MSD, and I said, hey, here's what I got. They said, well, that's not an MSD distributor. And number two, MSD does not make a marine distributor. I was like, okay. So I didn't want to mess with a man's motor, so I went ahead and bought everything MSD said I needed to buy. And I put it in there. And I talked to the man himself finally, and he said, oh, yeah. He said, that'll be fine. He said, they put them under the hoods of cars, and they get wet from the rain in the street and blah, 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 but I never have seen a car driving through the salt water. So, and that's the valve covers that came on the motor. They're no longer on the motor. I was going to chunk them. My wife said, why don't I go over there? I got a welding shop over there. Why don't I go over there and TIG 4 legs on them? We'll put them in the chicken coop. So that's where they're going to be headed, you know. So anyway, we get the motor running, and like I say, if you're sitting at a stoplight, it sounds pretty good. you know, it got a nice thump to it, and you know, that's not what I wanted, and that's not what I requested. I requested a nice idle. You know, I'm not spinning a torque converter. I'm spinning, you know, 7-8 foot of blade there. You know, and if you've got a hump and a bump, the gearbox will stop and start kind of in midsection because of the diameter of the blades. You know, it's pretty rough. So anyway, long story short, it wouldn't work. So I called Comp Cam. I sent them all the specs on the motor. I said, this is what I got and this is what I want. And they said, well, hang on, let us get back with you. So 2 days later, 2 of them called me back on a conference call, and they said, well, for what you've got and what you want, your motor is way over cam for what you're looking for. And I said, really? So I have a $600 Beal Racing engine cam, and I replaced it with a $300 comp cam. And I'm not, you know, I'm not one to, you know, I've got plenty of experience at building motors, but I'm not qualified like Comp Cam is. You know, Comp Cam says this is what you need, you know, with the Brodix heads and that Merlin block and the AED carb and everything. You know, this is what you need for what you're doing. They sent me a cam. So you know, that distributor left me, that's the funny part of this story, that distributor lasted 5 hours. That's what I had on the motor. I had a vibration timer on the motor to see how many hours I was putting on it. So when you start it and it starts vibrating, you know, it logs the hours. But anyway, I had a nice time getting towed in because that thing didn't make it very far, that Chinese knockoff. And needless to say, I was a little bit upset. And you know, if you're not going to do the job right the first time, I'm sure not coming back to you. You know, it's just how it is. You know, I'm old school. So Comp Cam sent me a cam. We pulled all the crap off this thing and stuck that cam in there. And this thing idles at 650 RPM and increased, that's right, increased my torque from what Beal had me. And that was my concern. And I asked myself, well, what's it going to do? You know, I said, I don't care about horsepower. I care about torque. Horsepower, torque take care of the horsepower. You know, torque's what makes it. But anyway, it idles nice at 650 RPM. And in the summertime, we idle them down that low because you're up there in them creeks and there's not much airflow. Of course, you're pulling air through with a pretty good sized fan, but you don't want them dieseling. So anyway, I've got the old boat now, probably 10, 12 hours on it. And now I got a rear seal seeping in it. So anyway, I told the folks at Beal Racing when all this got started, and we talked to them, I said, look here, I got some views on YouTube, got 660,000 views, okay? And you make me a nice motor and I'll put it up on YouTube. And I never considered that I would have this much trouble because some, you know, they got an ad up there local, if you want to learn to build racing engines, you know, we're hiring. And I'm, you know, 40 plus years in the garage business, I'm not stupid about it. You know, you're not going to put the beginner on a $50,000 race car motor. You're going to put him down there in the cheap seats on these $15,000, $16,000 632s, you know. And I understand that. But before it goes out the door, the boss man needs to walk over there and check it, tighten some bolts, look, see. That's how you train engine builders. You don't say, okay, it's good to go, and send a man his motor with the valve cover bolts. You know, they got little washers under them Allen heads. Every one of them washers you could spin. I mean, spin, not just, they were loose. Pan bolts were loose, you know, and silicone hanging off the front of the motor. What kind of, you know, I don't understand it, but that's America. Anyway, Beal Racing, here's the video I promised you. Thank you.